Evening, everybody. Well, I just thought I'd have a touch base with everybody on a Friday evening. A busy week again down at the garage. Diary's now full for at least the next 7 working days, which we can't complain, can we? We've also had a number of breakdowns and recoveries dropped off, so it's looking like another busy few weeks ahead for us. Had a few awkward repairs this week, but one that stands out was a Vauxhall Corsa EV, so an electric vehicle. Came in originally for an MOT. Of course, anybody can MOT EVs or hybrids. We've had the training. I believe we are the only independent EV and hybrid repair centre in Doncaster. So we've got that little bit of a niche market there. This one came in for an MOT and had an ABS traction control and tyre pressure monitoring fault. Excuse me. Diagnostics pointed us to the near side rear, so passenger rear ABS sensor, short to ground. After quite a bit of investigation, going through the wiring and whatever, we eventually found the culprit, a broken wire. The outside insulation on the wire was actually in good condition, and it was a twisted pair, so they were twisted together. But we untwisted them, and a sharp tug, and the insulation broke. And the wire was actually broke inside the insulation. So first glance, everything appeared fine. It's a good reminder that things aren't always what they seem when diagnosing modern vehicles. It tells you it's the sensor, but it was some wiring. I think the repair of the week's got to be a Volvo XC60. I've been to another garage. They diagnosed a low boost fault and recommended to the customer a replacement turbocharger. Our diagnostics led us to the same conclusion initially, but before fitting expensive parts, we carried out some further investigations. What a job! I shared a video earlier on this week regarding this one. We got the front off, the bumper, the headlights out. We got the suspension, subframe, the exhaust off, and what have you, all to gain access to the turbochargers. But once we got there, we found that the turbos themselves checked out okay. Further testing revealed a faulty actuator and a blocked pressure sensor pipe. Couldn't even be seen from above. It only became accessible once the subframe and exhaust were removed. Everything was repaired, rebuilt, road tested, and it's now working exactly as it should. Most importantly, we managed to save the customer the cost of replacing the turbochargers. They didn't actually need them. That's why proper diagnostic matters. If you've got warning lights, strange noises, performance issues, don't just replace parts. Find the fault first. This one took some finding, but what a result! We earned money for the time we spent on it and the parts that we fitted. But we saved the customer approximately £1,400. Just be a bit of due diligence and just making sure that it did need the parts, or in this case, didn't need the parts. So anybody got any issues with the car and how it's running and what have you, just give us a call. Advice is free. We'll do a free quote, 01302 363 262. We've got a video that I'm going to post tomorrow. Fiat 500 came in for an exhaust back box replacement. Well, carrying out this one, I was doing it myself, and just out of the corner of my eye, I saw this. The rear axle looked a bit dodgy, a bit suspect. Anyway, it was heavily corroded. Now, if this vehicle had been presented to us for an MOT, it would have failed. It was actually quite dangerous. Near side rear spring was very close to leaving the part altogether. We stopped all work, advised customer what we found. We put the old exhaust back on. They only purchased it in March. So the customer is now speaking to the supplying dealer. Sometimes the job isn't, the job that it comes in for isn't really the biggest problem it has. And, due diligence and, we do think about us customers a little bit. We're not, we didn't even fit the exhaust. The car came off we showed the lady, got the ladies to come look at the car, and then it went outside and they collected it later. We don't always have to make money. You've got to be right with your customers. So, we've got to look after your customers. Now, they'll come back. It's that lady's now speaking to the supplying dealer, and so she's also questioning the validity of the MOT. Really, I mean, they've only had the car since March, so it was only MOT just before then. So they're on with that. Hopefully they get something sorted with it. So we've got an update today, or some information from Gary Winterman, Head of Cargo and General Aviation at Doncaster Sheffield Airport. Now, the aviation industry is increasingly recognising now that the opportunity that DSA offers, obviously one of the UK's longest runways capable of handling fully loaded B747s and the the Antonov AN124 aircraft. Direct access to motorway network, iPort, Railport, Humber ports and major UK distribution hubs. No slot restrictions and 24-hour operational capability if needed. There's a huge potential for warehousing, logistics, fulfilment centres and aviation-related businesses. And further recruitment's expected to be announced next week as preparations continue to get the airport open. I think the message is clear here. DSA isn't simply reopening, it's positioning itself to become a major player in the UK cargo and logistics. It's great to see all this stuff going up behind the scenes. Last week they had the disability flights helping disabled people get up flying. And we've had some comments on that. People can go to any airport and do that. Yeah, they can, but they did it at DSA, so it's a positive. It shows that the airport is usable. All right, we haven't got air traffic control, and the airspace is not done yet, but we're on to the third stage of that. Next with us will be, excuse me, so stage 1 and 2 with stakeholders and what have you all been interviewed, and they've come up with the solution to the airspace and what's needed at DSA. And the next step is having a chat with local people, and just getting the response from people and seeing what they need to do to move further on. An answer on that's expected May next year. So it's all positive down at the airport. I think the team down there, I speak to them occasionally. I was talking to Gary this morning about his update, and we speak to a few of them now and again. And the best thing about it is, well, we've had all this hassle recently with the funding and loans and all the negative feedback and comments from people. They're just getting on with job. They're just getting on with it. The employing air traffic control staff last week, setting a few on, and got some more starting later on in the year. There's an air traffic control simulator getting purchased and set up, and the training their own ATC staff now, because ATC staff are hard to find. So they're doing it themselves, which is absolutely brilliant. Let's move on to Doncaster itself. Got investment continuing across the city with Gateway 1 and some excuse me, sorry. Gateway East progressing, city centre regeneration projects underway. DSA appears to be moving forward, and there's plenty happening in Doncaster. I drove past the railway station yesterday when I went out some parts, and Gateway 1 there, it's looking, I won't say a complete building, but it's looking like it could be watertight pretty soon, so they're cracking on with that. And we had a visitor yesterday. Had a good catch up with Matt from KD Davis, the greengrocers. Another great Doncaster business. We've known each other for some years now, myself and the family down there. You'll find them on Doncaster Market alongside some other fantastic local businesses. They also have stores at Walker's Nurseries in Blackstone and Waits in Conisbrough. Along with, I believe now, a number of pop-ups that they're putting in Rotherham and Maltby, offering people fruit and veg. I think they've got a couple of pub car parks that they're setting up in. And they're doing a cracking job there, Another great Doncaster business, family run, and good produce and really good people. And the staff, they're all great. They'll do everything they can to help you out. So as always, just a shout out there for the guys and girls down at KD Davis. Please support local businesses in and around Doncaster. They're the backbone of our local community and the economy. It's really good to see people putting effort in. There's a lot of negatives about Doncaster city centre and what businesses and opportunities there is there. But I think majority of people, they haven't been to Doncaster for a while. You go down at market and there's a lot of fruit and veg and butchers, and you can get just about everything still at the market. It's probably not as busy as it was 30 years ago, but You know, you used to be able to go to the pub and have a fag, didn't you, 30 years ago? You can't do that now, can you? Things change as we move on, I think. Next week, well, I've had a bit of a thought, and I've decided to start doing a few car reviews. Probably just one a week to start off with, but not new car reviews. You know, on cars that we get in the garage that are presented for MOTs or, you know, in for a service, and we're going to have a walk round and a look round. And I'm going to do my own car first, this Toyota CHR GR Sport Hybrid that I've got, that we've got from Toyota on lease. You know, we're going to have a chat about that and condition it's in. I've had it nearly 3 years now. We're going to discuss servicing costs and all that. And I'm hoping to do at least one car a week, you know. We've got an advantage here. We've got a few cars in, so, you know, there's with permission from customers, of course, you know, there's an opportunity to tell people about different cars. And, you know, if there's a car you're thinking of buying, you know, give us a shout. We'll if we get one in, we'll do a review on it for you. Got to put a few funny memes on, haven't we? You know, a few carriage-based memes. You know, I did one last week. You know, Google says it's only a small job, won't take you long. Well, we'll get Google to do it then. You know, we got a picture of Google, his hands and, you know, under the bonnet of a car, just a bit of fun, a bit of a laugh. You know, hopefully we're going to be sharing the recruitment updates from DSA if that's announced. I'm going to try and do a positive business spotlight on another Doncaster-based business, and I'm sure we'll have some garage repair stories with before. I'm going to try and do some before and after photos as well, just to show the challenges that we face sometimes and how we solve them, and even just to show, you know, location of certain bits. And, you know, I don't think some people realise how tightly packaged modern cars are put together, and you know, we don't have to, you know, we have to justify sometimes why we're charging people so much, but modern cars are so tight and small spaces, and the amount of stuff we've got to take off, like the Volvo from last week, you know. So we're going to start sharing a few more bits like that. And yeah, again, you know, we've last 28 days, last month, we had 2.4 million interactions with people. You know, it's dropped now because the airport news isn't as busy, but, you know, we're still at 1.6 million interactions, you know, so far. Absolutely brilliant. Really like to thank everybody for following, commenting, sharing, supporting both Stadium Garage, the DSA campaign. You know, that's maybe 4 years soon now. We'll have to have a birthday party, won't we? You know, and some positive stuffs about Doncaster. We had the rifles in the marketplace during the week, and you know, let's just big Doncaster up. You know, we live here, we work here, and all these people, all these negatives. You know, let's support Doncaster, support the local businesses and ourselves. Because at the end of the day, if we don't support local businesses, they're going to do a runner. You know, Marks and Spencer's left the town centre. They left town centre for a reason. They've gone down Wheatley Hall Road, but they left because they need, each customer needs to spend a certain amount of money, and that certain amount of money, my understanding is, it needs to be in a shopping trolley, not a shopping bag. So that's why Marks and Spencer's moved, because the car park's close by down on Wheatley Hall Road. But, you know, these smaller shops and smaller businesses we've got, you know, Frenchgate Centre, etc. There's loads of small little shops in there, and we need to support these, because not only are they paying the rent and the rates, but they're paying local people who work there as well. So, you know, if I can ask, you know, just at least one person this week, you know, one person in each house, or just rather picking your phone up and, you know, old Amazon. I know it's convenient. I use it myself when I really have to, but, you know, let's try and buy something from a local business in Doncaster and support the local economy. And that's it, basically. I'll drop a couple of videos over the weekend, and I'll chat to you all next week. Thanks ever so much for everybody's support. All the best now. Bye bye.